Step into the arena of minds. On this channel, every move is a clash of strategy, every sacrifice a turning point, and every game a battle for glory. Watch two players push the limits of creativity and calculation as we bring you the drama, suspense, and excitement of chess like never before. Shankland, blasts, 1. e4, staking central control immediately and demanding answers from Wesley So's setup, with blazing intent. Wesley So calmly replies, 1. In deine army. Imagine me. f5, mirroring center control and inviting tactical skirmishes while keeping flexibility for defenses. Shankland develops two Petsterlingendichsen. Nf3, attacking f5 and preparing kingside activity, energetic and hungry for early initiative. Wesley So answers, Tolwitpotpio. Nein, Bezes, den Mondschirm der nicht tun, Atuistiwan. When. Ngx, defending the f5 pawn and readying knights for central clashes, with cool precision. Shankland plays 3 Boysten. bb5, probing the knight and hinting at pressure on Chix. Provocative Ruy Lopez ideas emerge. Wesley So responds 3 Toit. Ento, Tübermain, Ende Zetjeren, und Unteis. Undertale. Nf6, attacking e-file and sharpening play. Wesley's piece activity speaks of restless, accurate preparation. Shankland shows up with 4. D, solidifying e4 and avoiding early complications, cautious yet intent on build-up. Wesley So develops 4 piliin, Pentsimen. Annamen. Hastio bueno client, Timoren, Dienes Centelis 2K. Neo, in Leoni. bc5, aiming at f2 and accelerating kingside pressure, classical deployment with an eye for tactics. Shankland prepares 5 d. Key 3, supporting d4 possibilities and restricting black's knight hops, pragmatic and forward-looking. Wesley So castles 5 torti. Undenint kan pentan. Wisse die undewonish etweste, enlesom. Ende. Eine Singe, and yewonoyodia. Oh, tucking his king safely and signaling readiness for a central and kingside fight. Shankland castles 6 piliin, pen meine Zetchueste. Oh, mirroring safety and preparing rook lifts, both kings hidden now, battle lines forming quietly. Wesley So steadies with 6. Andenagen, Hume. Andan. Anansi, Moino, Desen, Enchant. 6. A solid pawn wall, supporting f5 and freeing his light bishop for action. Shankland repositions 7 torte. NBD2, aiming for e4 or c4 squares, patient maneuvering to strengthen central control and cohesion. Wesley So strikes, with 7, Henvesfiordimastenin. Einen, Noi, Nanixeneshiordajai. Me'al all, and Diabal, Amadmarli Medkadne. A6, forcing the bishop's decision, and claiming queenside space with purposeful tempo, gain shu. Emil Shankland, retreats 8, Porden. B4, keeping tension on the diagonal and preserving the bishop for future tactical bursts. Wesley So slides, 8 Porden. Anyanim, Moksene. Wanes, Wukhan Moon, Pedistadierunum Kennedan. A7, maintaining diagonal presence while avoiding exchanges, subtle and attentive to long-term pressure. Emil Shankland, creates Luft, 9. Hack 3, preventing pins and securing g4 jumps, small prophylaxis with a cheeky tone. Wesley So reroots, Nantentots 9. NT. Anananista. Ni7, preparing knight redeployment to g6 or g6, flexible planning beneath calm exterior Dardin. Samuel Shankland, centralizes 10 Punktpilin, Penoktionas 7. Rione, placing a rook behind the e-pawn, preparing f4 f5 thrusts and tactical firepower. Wesley So, answers, 10 Portchen. Arnit Horn. Imenar. C5, striking at the center immediately, contesting d4 squares, and asking white tough questions. Samuel Shankland, retreats, 11. NFO Nay, rerouting for kingside defense, and aiming for g3 or e3, subtle regrouping under pressure. Wesley So plays, 11. Piliin 3. 1. And me. Anima. A useful pawn move to stop ing5 ideas, and keep kingside safe from nuisances. Samuel Shankland, advances 12, Portst. ing3, iying5 and e4, ready to jump into the heat with cunning timing. Wesley So expands 12, Timuul Meisene. Internation, Anin, N.D., KCY, Istestat Hell. Nonum. E5, chasing the bishop, grabbing queenside space and starting to unbalance the position aggressively. Samuel Shankland, reassigns 13, Penwent Furio. BC2, keeping the bishop alive and aiming at the long diagonal for tactical prospects. Yeah. Wesley So maneuvers, 13 Pundesen, into Obersturum. In, Candinum Panitua. Pananda. Aiming 6, heading for F4 or F5, increasing pressure and hinting at kingside intrusions. Samuel Shankland, breaks with 14. D4, striking the center boldly, opening lines and claiming initiative with dramatic conviction. Wesley So replies 14, piliin. And it's Shan. And as yay. And Kendan. And Relentless series, Penchapan, and Yestenjar. B7. Placing his bishop on a powerful long diagonal to contest the open center. Shankland develops 15 point. B3. Centralizing the bishop, connecting rooks, and aiming to challenge Wesley's central pawns decisively. Wesley So positions 15. And then you demand. Re8, aligning the rook with the e-file and preparing to contest central pawn breaks. Shankland pushes 16. D5, advancing aggressively to dislodge pieces and create a dynamic, cramped position for black Dawine. Wesley So responds 16. Penwowen. Anden. Antenese. C4, closing the center cleverly and creating tension while seeking counterplay on the queen side. Shankland sacrifices tactically 17. Bx7, grabbing material and opening lines, a daring capture that shakes the board. Wesley So recaptures 17. Pora William. Inabo, Penibeseno, and Penodestimen, Hadioclimesteris. Neos. Rx7, accepting material and activating his rook on the 7th rank with ruthless clarity. Shankland consolidates 18. Pilwon was Sirin. B3. Undermining the pawn chain and opening files, attempting to pry open Wesley's queenside fortress. Wesley So replies 18. Poland Cheris. In 9. Etenino. Alfor Arbar. Altan. Int. QZ7, centralizing the queen and defending key squares while eyeing tactical possibilities along files. Shankland captures 19 Porizio. BXT4, recouping pawn structure and opening lines, trading structure for active piece play and chances. Wesley So captures back 19. Padil Mice. Endi. QXC4, grabbing a central pawn and boosting queen activity with cold-blooded calculation. Shankland advances 20, Testinen. A4, trying to blunt queenside pawns and open avenues, stubbornly fighting for initiative. Wesley So counters, 20 tastes. Ein, Pentue. Mr. Einstein, Antoine Ngestilo, Adjenden Mestior de Stiebe, Bonja, at hand, at Quick C3, snatching another pawn and diving deep into enemy territory with fearless queen incursions. Shankland replies, 21, Push. XP5. Exchanging to reduce black's pawns and seek counterplay against Wesley's exposed queen presence. Wesley So answers 21. Piliin. Internan. Anaw. Nin. Andamun. Andescenda. Elbordius. Panel. QC5. Retreating the queen, while maintaining pressure and keeping tactical opportunities alive. Shankland centralizes 22 to it to piliin. Kibionin, eyeing diagonal pressure and preparing to coordinate rooks against Wesley's queen and exposed king. Wesley So captures 22. Tarabion, Abusiai. Nindan, Ijanino, Ilmo Westsenescad. Amanin, Getsentunin. Act 5. Restoring pawn structure and opening lines for rooks, pragmatic and materially focused. Shankland sacrifices 23, Puchkinan. Arxas7. Daringly exchanging rooks to fracture black structure and complicate the position energetically. Wesley So calmly responds 23. Nen once, penwol missuage. Internet bania. QX7. Recapturing with the queen and maintaining material edge while keeping the position solid. Shankland grabs 24. Tatestein, a Dewanbern, Kidanda, Kilbot Steerwood Shun. QXBS5. Reclaiming material and centralizing the queen, seeking counterchances in a chaotic middle game. Wesley So develops 24. Antonin, Tessenwen. Nana Nanmin, Oln, in Penich R8. Placing a rook on the open file and tightening control with iron discipline. Shankland plays 25. Baton. BD3. Reorganizing pieces toward the king's side and anticipating tactical possibilities with gritty resolve. Wesley So leaps 25 Testen. Ona. NF4. Invading with a knight into enemy territory, threatening forks, and creating immediate tactical headaches. Shankland retreats 26. QB3. Regrouping the queen, defensively while keeping pressure on c4 and monitoring enemy threats. Wesley So places 26. Moinen. ND. Ba6. Exchanging diagonals and aiming to trade off strong bishops, simplifying while keeping initiative. Shankland sacrifices 27. Bixa 6. Removing an important piece and forcing simplifications that change tactical balances dramatically. Wesley So calmly captures 27. Ont. End. Quixa 6. Using the queen to recapture and maintain material superiority with accurate technique. Shankland charges 28 Putin. NFEV, jumping into 5 with tempo, threatening forks and adding heat to the kingside battle. Wesley So sidesteps 28. Nasan. In. Benai normal. Besenmesto, Esanbendia, Elzabisao, Bendel. Caxhaven, tucking his king away from tactics, and preparing to mobilize forces for decisive strikes. Samuel Shankland, probes 29, Pepsi. QB4, searching for active squares and lurking tactical shots, while pressing Wesley's slightly exposed position. Wesley So counters 29, Tonight. Anan. Andarulwaindanai, Andawitanyai, Abu, Antama piliin Tenin, Andanjo. Date, bringing a rook to the center, to contest files and blunt white's threats steadily. Samuel Shankland, centralizes, 30k. QD2, coordinating pieces and preparing to challenge black's active setup with hopeful determination. Wesley So plays 30. Nbienmail. Andea. Ride it, shifting rooks to seize open files and tighten control, methodical and threatening future penetration. 1. Samuel Shankland, activates 31, Petselung Amisio. QC2, sliding the queen, to pressure C4, and coordinate threats with growing urgency across the center. Wesley So, answers, 31-10. Nayin. Pen Simus Soloin, Pemyeyen, Chulek Fian. No. H8, doubling power on the C-file and reinforcing control as his pieces tighten around white's position. Samuel Shankland restores pressure with 32 Borinen. QD2, circling his queen again to guard weaknesses while searching for new tactical chances. Wesley So replies, 32, Terrorwinmesha. An instinizitien. In. RC4, planting his rook deep and carving invasive lines that slice into white's strained defenses. Samuel Shankland, jumps, 33, Tetin. Ink 3, repositioning the knight toward active outposts and trying to spark counterplay in a tense battlefield. Wesley So fires, 33. Anitan say, and Shen Teranigikai, and Seim Kai. Umanayan, Unsis. Q8, centralizing his queen, and preparing combined threats that steadily suffocate white's coordination. Samuel Shankland, advances 34, Turn. NHD Wool, rerouting the knight defensively, clinging to hopes of parrying Wesley's increasing pressure. Wesley So strikes 34. Oh, many, pass. Mo andana. Air D4, shoving a rook forward to dominate central squares and impose crushing logistical control. Samuel Shankland fights back with 35. QA3. Aiming at kingside targets, while defending key files under suffocating tension. Wesley So answers 35. Byte. Ninwan, Kenden, Iwan Ken, Den Wobisen. One Chan, one Kima. RD3. Penetrating deeper with his rook and piling pressure relentlessly against white's fractured setup. Samuel Shankland checks activity with 36. Kazevan. Creating tactical threats on the back rank while trying to disrupt black's grip. Wesley So coolly plays 36. Nunin. Halsendi. Ent. Inanyan. QC3. Centralizing his queen again, to menace targets and support decisive tactical sequences. Samuel Shankland. Reorganizes 37. Pendatonen. Re3. Lifting the rook toward defensive coverage, while preparing last-ditch complications. Wesley So unleashes 37. Meinen Ponen. Uninchi. Arxa 3. Slicing through white's defenses by removing the rook and tightening his winning advantage. Samuel Shankland. Recaptures 38. Piliin. QX3. Restoring material balance, but leaving himself vulnerable to Wesley's precise coordination. Wesley So plays 38. Ihnen. In vostri case. Unbedahe. QC3. Exchanging queens to enter an ending where his superior structure promises a clean conversion. Samuel Shankland responds 39. FA3. Rebuilding structure but producing weaknesses that Wesley's technique will soon exploit. Wesley So jumps 39. Annei. Umgehen an einem. N3. Repositioning the knight aggressively to target weaknesses, while tightening control across the board. Samuel Shankland brings 40 POST. NF3. Centralizing his knight defensively, trying to hold crumbling lines against Wesley's domination. Wesley So improves 40 Tain. Lenmo. Pamedis. Balain day. And then in the day. And as seniors, Client to me. Tibante no. Honesty. She makes an in cute. In C5. Shifting the knight to a powerful outpost and preparing further invasions into white's camp. Samuel Shankland. Counters 41. ND2. Reorganizing with hopes of neutralizing threats and defending critical dark squares. Wesley So pushes 41. Pech Simin, Timinastay and Devaston Penchis Sheish. Nens Shell. In Newman. Arts. Indo. Es Singen. En Oxianish. Elepidena. En Danish. Asa. E5. Expanding on the king side, and opening new lanes to break Shankland's already strained structure. Samuel Shankland activates 42. KF2. Moving his king towards safety, and bracing for the storm, Wesley is orchestrating. Wesley So marches, 42, to digestation in. Alamonsen, Anel, Bein, Is. Ononin, Bandano, Antanema Dendiore, and Bethanianides, and Isores Zone. Caddy 6, centralizing his king for the upcoming endgame fight with absolute confidence. Samuel Shankland continues 43. Kf3. Advancing his king toward the center, desperately seeking counterplay in a difficult situation. Wesley So sharpens, 43 Toshti. An. Any, Antamo,Anain, and Benevistan, at, Anti. Unain, An. Have. Preparing pawn storms, and creating direct threats against White's fragile kingside defenses. Samuel Shankland reacts 44. Penimomudes is emasien, Shunatiga. A4. Challenging the pawn, and trying to halt Black's advance with a bold, tension-filled push. Wesley So answers, 44. Personishiden, Humatestisipsi. Anya. Ano. Nia. And Emiano. And Abdana de Siwopian, Unmowistel, Het Perl. GXH4. Opening lines brutally and exposing weaknesses around White's king with ruthless efficiency died. Samuel Shankland jumps 45. Pistepern. Nf. Launching his knight forward to stir tactical threats and disrupt Wesley's advancing formation. Now. Wesley So counters 45 Destiny. Neopun. Muniche. Und. Next E5, capturing decisively and widening his material edge while ripping apart White's fragile structure. Samuel Shankland recaptures 46. NX10, grabbing material but leaving his knight deep and exposed in enemy territory. Wesley So strikes 46. OMS. And then, Komobianis, Anawudichatsian, Petshell. NC3. Attacking key squares and threatening forks while showcasing flawless tactical precision. Samuel Shankland replies 47. NF. Scrambling to reposition pieces and stave off Wesley's increasingly overwhelming threats. Wesley So steps in with 47. Undium. Kiana Indenio, Engestanemen, Woodfiade. Nay. Nil. One. Inino, Ian Andea. KG5. Using the king aggressively to support the attack and press deeper into White's lines. Samuel Shankland stabilizes 48 Punkte. ND6, returning the knight to challenge squares and block Wesley's creeping advances. Wesley So coolly plays 48. Essay. Anite. KF6, improving king activity, and preparing to convert with merciless endgame accuracy. Samuel Shankland, Jums, 49. Eve, continuing his night dance, in a desperate attempt to complicate an increasingly hopeless position. Wesley So responds 49. Ilalim. Nesix, centralizing the night and sealing off escape squares while preparing concrete tactical blows. Samuel Shankland, Grabs, 50 Bewestern. Nix 4, snatching a pawn to create counter-threats, though still far from stabilizing the crumbling position. Wesley So shocks with 50. Henel Wimis Ulik Shenatrain, when neither can with it away. Olund, and Mimidwan. Oh. Ing 5a, delivering a forcing check that drags Shankland's king into even darker waters. Samuel Shankland escapes with 51. Caddy 3, stepping aside while sensing the tightening noose from Wesley's relentless pressure. Wesley So unleashes 51 Peratpetchil, hanging them into a winning. In Penan Lewis Ein An Nisfori, claiming material, while checking and demonstrating surgical domination of the position. Samuel Shankland replies 52, Tup Kestum Chulne. Nixafori, exchanging pieces to reduce threats yet facing a still overwhelming disadvantage. Wesley So captures 52. In Mise Undi Inne ist der Stellen ist der Permanentio Geniste, einem Ideal Duntan, Endo. Nixafori, continuing the forcing sequence with clarity and unshakable tactical mastery. Samuel Shankland retreats 53. KF3, seeking safety while Wesley's pieces coordinate for a decisive finishing blow. Wesley So presses 53, Potsdam. Andy, in Bermolin Musetpes. Instant und Stanley. ND2 checking and forcing the king backward as his knight dominates crucial central lanes. Samuel Shankland answers 54 turns. Ket 2, retreating under fire, while trying desperately to cling to remaining defensive squares. Wesley So drives forward, 54. Anand. In the independent, as ceremonious tabicum, was a tennisty eye, more than they thought. Kage 5, advancing the king aggressively, embodying complete control of the battlefield. Samuel Shankland pushes 55. E, challenging Black's knight and searching for last hopes in an increasingly bleak endgame. Wesley So responds 55. Indin, May. Enindaolen, Wethemu. Nay4, centralizing the knight and aiming to dismantle White's remaining defenses systematically. Samuel Shankland, continues 56. KF3, dancing with the king, as he attempts to coordinate surviving pieces under tremendous pressure. Wesley So plays 56. End. Niabe, yubde gentenamo, ipate. ND2 form, repeating checks to gain tempi, and maintain iron grip over the collapsing white position. Samuel Shankland, shifts, 57. Ketu, again forced backward as Wesley tightens the cage relentlessly with perfect technique. Wesley So drives, 57. Nenes. Ends. Nafor, reclaiming the dominant central post, and preparing to launch the final decisive assault. Samuel Shankland answers, 58. KF3, circling the king helplessly as Wesley's forces control every meaningful square. Wesley So pushes 58. N. 5. Expanding decisively, and preparing a brutal pawn march to break what remains of White's structure. Samuel Shankland, moves, 59. KJ2, attempting kingside safety, though Wesley's pieces leave no room for real escape. Wesley So strikes 59. Desestimo. Shenanduo. Enoye. In Mokshikelis Sedestonen, and Entes, Intutia. ND2, placing the knight on a crushing outpost where it penetrates White's weakened position mercilessly. Samuel Shankland activates 60. Pendero Pulwen, Kiroktim 60. KF2, trying to regroup even as Wesley's forces tighten their strategic noose, unmistakably. Wesley So plays 60 to Olymordinate Pen. Habist, in Meshuo, So plays 60. Und Shen. Wonder Divine. Nance. Kaye 4, driving the king forward with commanding presence, and preparing the final, unstoppable offensive. Samuel Shankland, defense with 61. Eng 6, hopping the knight to shield critical squares as Wesley's king looms dangerously close. Wesley So advances, 61 parti. Anan. Unai. NC4, planting his knight on a venomous post that slices into White's weakened defensive shell. Samuel Shankland resists with 62, win, Nistes. Nizeven, shifting the knight to challenge invading pieces and cling to faint survival hopes. Wesley So answers, 62 Pernoit, no, Obajanonen, Utinesai. Entasiana? Fanenishten, is Seren, Pentionente. Indianti. NB2, repositioning with precision and tightening pressure on Shankland's scattered, overworked defenses. Samuel Shankland tries 63. ND5, centralizing the knight again to block lanes and disrupt Wesley's seamless coordination. Wesley So calmly plays 63. Unsunser. Ilalim. E3, checking and forcing the white king further into a maze of inescapable threats. Shankland shelters with 64. Kg2, stepping aside while his position continues to crumble under Wesley's relentless push. Wesley So drive 64, pen. Munazanen. Seit Pelioistis den Elbwillie, Indien and Bechtai. Entsinnen. Kg5, advancing the king aggressively to support final breakthroughs with absolute confidence. Shankland, stabilizes 65 turbonisio. Kf3, attempting to build a shaky fortress as the board tilts heavily in Wesley's favor. Wesley So improves 65 in Miss Texted Den. Canal will continue Miss 65. St. Indanen. NCC5, anchoring his knight on a dominant outpost that suffocates white's mobility completely. Shankland reacts with 66. Kj20, circling the king again, searching desperately for breathing room in a doomed landscape. Wesley So continues 66. Inde. Ernse. Owen Abuyan. Monidius Kende. Enkenich. Nafor, placing the knight centrally to prepare lethal tactics and restrict every white escape. Shankland pushes 67. Penguin Nolo Adiwino Wistful. Kart 3, shifting the king away from checks while still trapped in Wesley's tightening net. Wesley So strikes with 67. Oniden. Inven Ulmanik Alwister Destin. Kiwewan. Inhuman. Edential Wizis. NF6, reinforcing control and eyeing decisive knight, maneuvers to finish the exhausting duel. Shankland retreats 68, point to Mol. Ni7, clinging to defensive squares with a weary knight fighting hopeless odds. Wesley So responds 68. Nini, gets upon the baby. Interesting high. In on a willian, is then, and it feel was tall. N4, unleashing threats around the king with predatory coordination and fearless calculation. Shankland moves 69. In D5, again blocking lanes and fighting for time, though Wesley's forces dominate every front. Wesley So pressures with 69. India. Nin. Hadjon, Benimo Metstad Kursis, at Pel. Kazis, marching his king closer to deliver the final smothering conclusion. Shankland retreats 70 tall. K4, sliding away from immediate checks while remaining trapped near the board's edge. Wesley So answers, 70 Dundinikayan, Pemoristo Inistus 70. Inis. Nazandian. Enawamo Ornistomen. Enenpips. KK6, shadowing the White King, with calm menace, and tightening the noose expertly. Samuel Shankland, finds 71t, tis the tutoriet, tilwist, identione. Cap 3, repeating moves to avoid collapse, though the position remains overwhelmingly grim. Wesley So maintains, 71 Torrentau, Perist Ogenin, Iyong. Nine Tornini. Nestinasir. Sitai. Kazedin 7, repositioning fluidly as he prepares new angles to shatter White's final defenses. Samuel Shankland plays 72. K4, circling again in desperation with Wesley's pressure mounting beyond repair. Wesley So responds 72. In. Enti. Ani. Domine. Kimtua. Kazix, steadily stalking the White King and closing every remaining escape corridor. Samuel Shankland returns 73. K3, endlessly chased across dark squares by Wesley's merciless mastery. Wesley So steps, 73. No. Under, Elena, Ansti. KF7, switching routes to break the cycle and prepare the final assault with cold precision. Samuel Shankland counters, 74, turret. Kayak 4, the king, drifting helplessly as Wesley's forces converge from all sides relentlessly. Wesley So drives 74. Nin. Anai. Nanda yoina now. K6, centralizing the king with unstoppable intent and tightening a clamp around White's monarch. Samuel Shankland pushes 75. NC7 Etten, delivering a spite check while hoping to distract Wesley's perfect endgame technique. Wesley So calmly answers, 75. Ni. Nanchidi. KGX, neutralizing the check and keeping full command as White's knight runs out of ideas. Samuel Shankland jumps, 76. Ni8, trying another check in a desperate attempt to complicate against insurmountable odds. Wesley So replies, 76. No one nest contain, a manida sirene zeros fornin, abjetsa stauben. Estianen. KD5, marching forward and refusing to yield even a shred of counterplay. Samuel Shankland captures 77. Pedarwin Puin, Investis. KX5, grabbing a pawn in desperation, though still utterly lost against Wesley's domination. Wesley So hits back 77. Namdi. Inozai, a lead chance. Or. And. Nixia 3, recovering material instantly while strengthening his unstoppable winning structure. Samuel Shankland, continues 78. Kage5, trying to activate the king despite being surrounded by Wesley's superior pieces. Wesley So responds, 78. Nenden. Ninanin. Panton, a dago away, a modestus tire. Kefua, advancing with iron precision as his king, spearheads the decisive breakthrough. Samuel Shankland shifts 79. Kf6, seeking counterplay through king activity, though the position remains brutally hopeless. Wesley So drives 79. In India, NG, Entscheiden, Ostschioin, Entschei. Nawin. K84, cutting off escape routes and setting up a straightforward march to victory. Samuel Shankland tries 80. Kage5, looping back as Wesley's forces systematically box in every remaining square. Wesley So pushes 80. Paint. Neowensin. Henry says it. 1. E4, launching a passed pawn that signals the beginning of White's final collapse. Samuel Shankland moves 81. Petturizing, Kantpette. ND6, blocking the pawn temporarily in a last effort to complicate Wesley's clean path forward. Wesley So answers 81 Istwoen, Penorikuntius. Norne, Inna Diadinian. Inna C. KD3, escorting the pawn powerfully and stepping into a completely winning configuration. Samuel Shankland steps 82 Ptostolen. Kafif, repositioning the king uselessly as Wesley's assault reaches unstoppable momentum. Wesley So continues 82. Inna. In. D. K4, keeping full central control and preparing to advance the decisive passer. Samuel Shankland returns 83. Kage5, forced into repetition-like motions with no meaningful counterplay remaining. Wesley So dominates 83. And Sumo. Est int. KD5, marching endlessly forward as the pawn and pieces synchronize toward victory. Samuel Shankland struggles with 84 Toctain. Petstulumist, and Wilbisentessen. NB5, throwing the knight into the fire to block lines and delay the inevitable. Wesley So responds 84. Minnesinen. Now rested Ipenbaitsen, Idesluodorish, Eschenian. Nanyang. Kasiv, pushing the king forward while slicing through the last remnants of White's defense. Samuel Shankland checks 85 to NC3. Trying tactical tricks though Wesley's position remains completely unshakable. Wesley So calmly plays 85 the time. Mo. Daniel. Nana. KD4. Steering the king back to escort the passer and maintain absolute control. Shankland tries 86. NB5A, delivering a spy check while running out of squares and ideas. Wesley So replies, 86, Petundiun, Tudanen within case. Anitan. N. D. Kefiv, stepping aside elegantly and preparing the final breakthrough without hesitation. Shankland pushes 87, toward Tuan. Na3, relocating the knight, though it can no longer affect the outcome meaningfully. Wesley So plays 87, Penday. Oh, Nene, I own now. ND5, centralizing the knight with crushing force and locking white's pieces in complete paralysis. Shankland checks 88 port. NC40, hoping for miracles, though Wesley's structure remains ironclad. Wesley So answers 88. Ändern, es senden, und wir understand. Nennen, ernessen. Kesix, sidestepping effortlessly and clearing the path for his advancing forces. Shankland tries 89. ND2, covering key squares, but still trapped as Wesley's engines of victory roar forward. Wesley So presses 89. Munas say, Inga, nay. Nentan, Mortonulasen, Fabersen. Kefiv, maintaining domination and preparing the killing sequence with perfect endgame instincts. Shankland repeats 90. NC40, searching for perpetual motion, though salvation remains impossible. Wesley So replies 90t. Nyanen, Deschine, Estagion, Entenkuetaji. Nen, Nananonde, Usent, Penda Distoria do Beamon, Endikai. Kesix, calmly walking through checks, knowing the win is only moves away. Shankland attempts 91, Portier. NDTU, repeating defensive maneuvers in the face of Wesley's unstoppable precision. Wesley So crushes forward, 91, Dipstachi. Estana. Endend. NF6, activating his knight to deliver the final blows against White's collapsing fortress. Shankland plays 92. G4, desperate to open lines and see complications, though nothing can stop Wesley's advance. Wesley So ends it with 92. Oh. Ninuwendian. C4, capturing decisively and sealing the victory as White's position finally collapses completely. That's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to bring you even more exciting chess games. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.